Let's begin with your accessory kit. Your 929D serger came with 4 thread nets. These are used to control the flow of decorative or slippery threads as it unravels from the cones. You also have 4 spool caps. These are used when you are using small spools of thread to keep them in place. To hold cones of thread securely, cone holders are included. They can be inverted to hold larger, industrial-sized spools of serger thread. A package of needles, hex wrench for changing needles, a screwdriver, lint cleaning brush, and tweezers to help in threading. An optional accessory is the trim trap, which will help keep your sewing area cleaner. The 929D is also a free arm serger. Simply slide the bed extender off to the left for convenient free arm serging. This is ideal for serging tubular knits or trousers or sleeve hems. To open the front cover, move the latch to the right and tilt the cover towards you. To close the cover, lift the cover and move it slightly to the left. The spring action will pull the cover to a secured position. The Brother 929D serger uses a standard home sewing machine needle. Don't forget that you can use ballpoint needles when you are serging knits and a metallic needle if you have metallic thread in the needle. Let's bring our needles to their highest position by turning the hand wheel counterclockwise. It is important that the hand wheel only be turned in this direction whenever you need to move the needles. To insert or change your needles, use the hex wrench in your accessory package and loosen the set screw located here. Both needles are held by this set screw, so if you are removing or changing just one needle, you need to hold both. Here's a helpful hint. When removing the needles, leave the thread through the eye of the needle. The needle can then easily be retrieved. Remember, it is important to insert the needles as high as they go into the needle ports. If this is done correctly, you will notice that the left needle is slightly higher than the right needle. Home sewing machine needles have a flat side. Remember to insert this flat side towards the back of the machine. Another hint: inspect and change your needles often. Bent or damaged needles can damage the lower looper and cause mechanical problems such as thread breakage. Your serger has easy snap-on, snap-off presser feet. To remove the foot, raise the foot to the highest position with the presser foot lift lever located on the right side of your machine. To release the foot, press the button on the foot holder. You may need to lift up on the foot spring in order to slide the foot out. The needle plate on the serger is similar to those found on sewing machines, but in the needle opening, the plate has stitch fingers, 2 of which are needle-like in appearance and stationary. The third is wider and can be removed for various stitches. As you serge, your thread actually wraps around these stitch fingers. Now, let's reattach the foot. In order to do this, align your presser foot to the presser foot bar and lower your presser foot lift lever in place. The 2 other components that are part of the stitch formation are the loopers. The upper looper is curved and can be seen as it rises above the needle plate. The lower looper is straight and remains under the needle plate. On the left side of your machine are additional controls. From back to front they are differential feed, stitch length, the knife or cutter disengagement, and stitch width. This dial controls the differential feed adjustment. This adjustment controls the speed and the position of the front feed dog for optimal fabric control. You will learn more about this important feature later in the video. To increase the stitch length, turn the dial to the right. To decrease your stitch length, turn the dial to the left. For most serging, you should set this dial between 2 and 3. The control lever to raise or lower the knife is next. To retract the knife, turn the hand wheel counterclockwise until the knife is in its lowest position. Now push this lever away from you. The knife is locked. To release the lock, bring the lever to the unlock position and turn the hand wheel to engage the knife. There is also a stitch width adjustment dial. Markings along this dial indicate the width of your stitch. You can vary the width of your stitch by rotating the control lever towards you to increase the stitch width, and away from you to decrease the stitch width. The R setting is for rolled hems. Except for the knife, the remaining control dials can be adjusted while sewing. The 929D can handle very thin or very thick fabrics consistently by adjusting the presser foot pressure adjustment knob. Located on the top left of the machine, the foot pressure can be increased by turning the knob to the right or decreased by turning the knob to the left. Here's a hint. The seams in the knitted fabrics will wave if the presser foot pressure is too high. To correct this, rotate the dial to the left. The color-coded tension dials at the top front of the machine rotate from 0 to 9, and the default setting is 4 for regular stitching. Just above each of the tension dials, you will find a thread tension release button. There is one for each thread. We will discuss the use of these in the threading section. Here's another hint. If tension dials are set at 0, it is not necessary to use the tension release button. Before you begin to thread your 929D serger, make sure that you have fully extended the thread tower to its highest position. Also, if you are using cone thread, you need to use the cone holder on the spool pin to secure the thread. Power to your machine is supplied by the combination foot control power cord. Insert the flat plug into the right side of the machine. Insert the power plug into an electrical outlet. The power switch is located on the right-hand side of the machine. Your machine came threaded with color-coded sample spools of thread. The easiest way to change the thread is to tie on the new thread. First, fully extend the thread tree. Now, clip the old thread near the spool and above the eye of the needles. Tie on the new thread to the old at the cones in the smallest knot possible, using a square or an overhand knot. Before you pull the new threads through, bring the presser foot to its highest position. Next, turn your tension knobs down to 0. This will help the knots pass easily. When the tension discs are set at 0, you do not have to hold the thread tension release button to the right. Pull your looper threads through first. Next, pull the needle threads down to the eye of the needle. Cut at the knot and manually thread through your needle's eye. Remember to reset your tension dials after you have rethreaded the serger. If your thread breaks or you want to rethread your machine from scratch, first bring your needles to the highest position. Also bring your presser foot up and open the front cover. An easy reference chart for looper threading is located on the inside of the front cover. The machine has been color-coded for easier threading. Always begin with the upper looper, which is the green thread path. Bring the upper looper thread up and pass it through the eye on the thread tree. Snap it into the first thread guide while holding the thread tension disc release button above the color code tension knob to the right. Pass the thread through the tension assembly. By holding the thread tension disc release button to the right while placing the thread into the tension assembly, it ensures that you will get the thread into the tension spring. Now we're going down through the lay-in threading channel, guiding the thread down towards the green dot above the first hook, continuing to the left beneath the wide hook with a green dot, and then straight up to the third hook. Now you are ready to thread through the eye of the upper looper. Pull the thread straight back towards the rear of your machine and turn your hand wheel towards you to align the looper thread. Next, we're going to thread the lower looper on the blue path. The first step is to release the lower looper threader. This is done by gently sliding the lower looper threader to the right open position. Be sure not to push back or pull forward on the threader, as it may become hard to operate. Now we'll bring our thread through the eye of the thread tree and down through the first blue thread guide. While holding the thread tension disc release button above the color-coded tension knob to the right, pass the thread through the tension assembly and down through the lay-in threading channel. Continue straight down to the hook below the first blue hook on the left, below both wide hooks marked with blue dots. Pull the thread straight up and lay it in the fourth silver hook. Drape the lower looper thread to the left so that it catches behind the rectangular clasp. Next, you'll need to return the lower looper threader to the left, back to its original lock position. In this position, you will notice that the red triangles line up. At this point, you'll want to get your tweezers. Now you're ready to thread the eye of the lower looper. Now, bring your thread to the back of the machine. Turning your hand wheel towards you will align the looper threads. This will ensure that the lower looper thread is laying on top of the upper looper. Here's another helpful hint. If you have to rethread the lower looper, you will have to cut off both needle threads and remove the excess thread from below. Then, rethread the looper, followed by the needles. Next is our red right needle thread path. Bring your thread up through the thread tree. Clip in through the first thread guide. Holding the thread tension disc release button to the right while placing the thread into the tension assembly assures that you get the thread into the tension spring. Now we're going down the lay-in threading channel. Bring it under, to the left, and continue to follow the gray arrows on your machine and down through the final silver thread guide. Now you're ready to thread the eye of the right needle. You may want to use your tweezers to bring the thread through the eye of the right needle and pull straight back. Now for the yellow left needle thread path. Bring your thread through the thread tree while holding the thread tension release button above the color-coded tension knob to the right. Pass the thread through the tension assembly. Now we're going down the lay-in threading channel. Bring it to the left and continue to follow the gray arrows on your machine and down through the silver guide. Again, using your tweezers, place the thread through the eye of the left needle and pull straight back. Now you'll want to make sure that all 4 threads are completely under the presser foot and pulled to the left. Before you begin serging, your presser foot should be in the down position. With your front cover closed, you'll want to check your threading by turning your hand wheel in a counterclockwise direction to make sure that your thread is chaining correctly over the stitch fingers. Now, place your foot controller in a comfortable position and while holding on to your chain, press down on the foot controller gently. This is called chaining off. You will always want to have 3 or 4 inches of thread chain before beginning your project. Let's begin by placing fabric in the machine and serging a 4-thread overlock stitch. Remember never to leave pins in fabric being serged. The 4-thread overlock stitch is the most commonly used in seam construction. Before you begin serging, go back and check to make sure that all tension dials have been reset at 4. For most fabrics, lift the presser foot lever, place your fabric under the foot, lower the presser foot lever, and begin serging. The feed dogs will pull the fabric forward through the serger, so you only need to gently guide the fabric. At the end of your seam, you'll want to continue serging until you have 3 or 4 inches of chain, and then clip the threads. You can use the knife to trim the chain while the serger is running. Here's another helpful hint. To conceal the end of the chain, try this handy trick. Slow the serger as you approach the end of the fabric. Serge 1 stitch over the edge, stop, lift the presser foot, slip the stitch off the stitch finger, and turn the fabric towards you again, and then serge over the seam with several stitches. Chain off and trim the thread chain close to the fabric edge. Before you continue, you will need to check your stitch formation. This is what your 4-thread stitch should look like. Let's take 1 thread at a time. By using the same color thread as your tension dials, your overlock stitch should look like this. The yellow thread, which is your left needle, forms a straight line on the top of your fabric. The red thread, which is your right needle thread, also forms a straight line on the top of the fabric. On the underside, you should see a small knot tied at the base of the Y-shaped loop. The right thread also ties the knot in the center of the Y-shaped loop. The blue loop on the underside of your fabric is your lower looper. This should extend from the seam line to the edge of the fabric. The green loop on the top side of your fabric is your upper looper. It should also extend from the seam line to the base of the fabric. If your sample does not look like this, you may need to make some tension adjustments. If your sample looks like this with loops on the back side instead of knots, most likely you have not engaged the thread into the tension disc. To correct this problem, tug on the thread while pushing on the tension disc release button to make sure it's engaged in the tension disc. In this example, the loopers do not meet along the edge of the fabric. You'll notice that the lower looper is pulled to the front side of the fabric. To correct this problem, you will first want to loosen your upper looper tension. Run a test sample. If this does not correct the problem, you may need to increase your lower looper tension. Be sure to only adjust 1 tension dial at a time before you run a test sample. If you have adjusted your looper tension correctly, the loop should meet along the edge of the fabric. If your fabric is puckering, this may be caused by needle tensions. You may need to loosen the needle thread tensions. The looper thread tensions should not affect the pucker of the fabric. If this does not correct the problem, and since your machine has differential feed, you may want to check that it is set on 1. On a heavier fabric such as fleece or denim, you may find it necessary to increase your needle thread tensions. On lighter weight fabrics such as cotton and silk, you may find it necessary to decrease your needle thread tension. Normally, as you change weights of fabric, your needle thread tensions are the only adjustments that are necessary. Also included with your book is a quick reference guide that clearly illustrates the results of these adjustments. Your machine settings will vary depending on the type of fabric and thread that you will be using. Test sew with a scrap of the fabric and thread that you will be using for your project before you actually begin the project. There is a setting record page in the back of your instruction manual for you to record your different settings. This record of settings will be helpful for future projects using similar thread and fabrics. Another popular stitch on your serger is the 3-thread overlock stitch. A narrow 3-thread overlock is done by removing your left needle. This is most commonly used as simple overcasting on lightweight fabrics. It can be used for decorative purposes, and it is also the perfect stitch to use with today's wide variety of decorative threads. To set for a narrow 3-thread overlock stitch, first bring your needles to the highest position by turning your hand wheel counterclockwise. Now you are ready to snip the left needle thread. Your left needle can be left in place, or you can remove it. To remove the left needle, use the hex wrench provided in your accessory package and loosen the set screw. Remember to hold on to both needles as they are both held by the set screw. Now, tighten the set screw. You are now ready to begin sewing a narrow 3-thread overlock stitch. Lift the presser foot lever, place your fabric under the foot, lower, and begin serging. A correct 3-thread overlock stitch should look like this. Make sure that your looper threads are meeting at the edge of the fabric. A wide 3-thread overlock stitch is done by removing your right needle. Your Brother 929D serger has been set up to easily convert to a narrow rolled hem. A narrow rolled hem is an ideal decorative finish or hem finish. In order to achieve the best results on a narrow rolled hem, all 3 threads should be the same color or combined with a decorative thread in the upper looper and lower loopers. Remember, due to their quality, decorative threads are primarily used in the upper and lower loopers and not in the needles. Check to be sure that the decorative thread can flow freely through the loopers. Here's a helpful hint. The thicker the thread, the longer the stitch length, and the looser the tensions. Use a color-coordinated thread or a monofilament thread in the needle. Change the stitch length setting to R, which stands for rolled hem, by turning the stitch length dial to the left. To change your stitch width, you'll need to move the stitch width lever down until the arrow aligns with the R setting. Now, open the front cover in preparation for removing the stitch finger. Before you do this, you'll need to clear the stitch finger. This is done by grasping your needle thread and pulling some slack. Then, you'll want to gently pull the chain back. This ensures that your threads are no longer wrapped around the stitch finger. Lift the presser foot, turn the hand wheel clockwise until the needles are in their lowest position. To remove your stitch finger, push on the release lever with your left thumb and grasp the stitch finger as it is released. For your convenience, you can store it in the holder on the front cover. We are starting with our thread tensions at a normal setting. In order to do the rolled hem, we are increasing our lower looper tension to between 5 and 6. Raise the presser foot, place your fabric underneath, lower the presser foot, and begin serging. Your machine has differential feed, which means your feed dog is split into 2 sections. You can operate your front feed dog at a different speed by adjusting the differential feed dial. You can adjust the ratio from 0.7 to 2.0 for optimal fabric feeding. At the 1.0 setting, your front and rear feed dogs are moving at the same speed. If your knits are tending to stretch out of shape, like in our sample, you will need to adjust your differential feed dial to between 1.0 and 2.0 to help control the stretch. Now that we have adjusted the differential feed, sew a test sample. This is how adjusting the differential feed can correct the problem. Lightweight fabrics may tend to pucker. To correct this problem, you'll want to move your differential feed dial towards the 0.7 setting. Now, sew a test sample. This is how an adjusted differential feed can correct the problem. The blind hem is done with 3 threads. You will want to remove your right needle by loosening the set screw. Tighten the set screw to secure the left needle. Guide the fabric so that your needle is just penetrating the fold of the fabric. The blind hem stitch should look like this. If you have aligned your foot correctly, the needle thread should barely show on the top of your fabric. The 929D has a blind hem foot for multi-purpose use, available as an option. The blind hem foot can also be used as a stitch guide for other decorative stitches. The blind hem foot is designed with a guide to help you align your fabric. Brother has other specialty accessory feet available for your serger as options. They include blind hem foot, elastic tape presser foot, gathering foot, pearl sequence foot, and piping foot. Ordering instructions can be found in your instruction manual.